Okay, good evening. I am going to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of April 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. So the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Okay, I am going to turn the meeting over to Elizabeth since we have a little different format.
Good evening. I'm happy to say tonight we have a few changes in our format, so I wanted to make an announcement of that prior to the meeting, but it looks like we have a good crowd tonight, so much appreciated all of your participation tonight. We do have 4 hearings tonight, so it is a big meeting. But I just wanted to start off and let all of you know we have a brand new Planning Commission chairperson. Lynn Carver-Quinn this is her first meeting, so it's a big meeting. So in this particular case, we do have a person helping her out. So you will see a familiar face with Ron Hanegraaff here. He's just here tonight just to help out, just in case we have a little things that we have to work out procedurally wise. So he is sitting up, but he will not be voting this evening, just there as moral support and if there's any questions. So we thank him for doing that because he's been a Planning Commission chairperson for us for many years and now as a city council member. So he's been wearing a couple of hats for the past couple of months, and we certainly appreciate all of the good help that he has provided the city over the many years. In addition to that, we have another change. We have a city council liaison, this is the first meeting where we'll have an official liaison from the city council. And so you'll see Councilmember Hagelin here with us tonight. And she is going to assist the Planning Commission for the next quarter. And if they have questions from council questions, policy questions, things they want clarification with, they'll simply ask Janet to participate in their discussion. Their council member will change quarterly depending on who has volunteered for that quarter. So Ron Hanegraaff, who's on our council, wore a couple of hats. He was the chairperson, semi-liaison for the first quarter, and so he has served kind of in that manner for the first quarter. But again, for this second quarter, Councilperson Hagelin will sit in that seat. The difference between a liaison and a sitting member is, in this case, it will not be a voting member. They'll just be here for advice, guidance, and answering questions. So I just wanted to make those announcements early on. And again, just a reminder for the format. During the public hearing, we will have a short presentation from the planner and/or the applicants, and then you'll have an opportunity if you have questions on a particular application. So when you do that, you would step up to the mic, ask your questions. You'll be asking your questions to the chairperson. The chairperson will then answer the questions, or they'll turn to the person who has the answers. It is a conversation between you and the chairperson and not you and the applicant. When the applicant is presenting, you'll have an opportunity to come up to the table and present. If you look at our table, we also have a brand new table with 2 microphones. It's a big step for us. We only had 1 microphone previously. We now have 2 microphones, so you don't have to share. So anybody that does want to come to the table, in other words, if you have 3 people for your application, please come up. If you have 4, bring a chair. Everyone who is going to discuss that application is allowed to come up to the table and answer any questions. So with that, questions from the Planning Commission on how the meeting will go, or procedurally, you know what I mean, questions before we start?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we're off and running. Thanks so much for the floor.
Okay, we'll continue on to item number 3, the approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from February 15th, 2023. Is there any additions or corrections?
This one. We gotta
Oh,
approve the
sorry.
agenda tonight.
Sorry. Got to approve the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
This
This is Barb, I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor?
Bethany, I.
Judy, aye.
Barb, aye.
Lynn, I. Now we'll go for the planning commission minutes. Any additions or corrections? Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
This is Barb, I'll second.
Okay, approval.
Abstain. Judy?
Barb, aye.
Bethany, I.
Lynn, I. So those are approved. Okay, number 5 is the interim use permit for Clear Channel Dynamic Billboards at 9500 145th Avenue Northeast. And Frank, do you want to give that report?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the City of Columbus Planning Commission on Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as parties may be heard. The hearing will be conducted in person and by interactive technology at Columbus City Hall, located at 16319 Kettle River Boulevard, Columbus, Minnesota, to consider a request for an interim use permit to allow the conversion of a static off-premises sign billboard to a dynamic off-premises sign with a 20-year interim use permit in the light industrial zoning district. Members of the public interested in attending in person, monitoring the meetings, or want more information should contact the city offices at 651-464-3120 or visit the city website at columbusmn.us. The hearing shall continue until all evidence and testimony has been received. And,
Sorry. Okay, so would the applicants Matthew Whelan and Dan Hare please come forward and have a seat at the front table? Will the parties give their name and current addresses for the record? Make sure you speak into the microphone so everybody in the room and the people on Zoom can hear you.
Certainly. Good evening, Chair, Planning Commission. My name is Matthew Weiland. I'm with Clear Channel Outdoor. We office at 3225 Spring Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55413.
Okay, and for the record, did you receive a copy of the staff report developed by Associate Planner Frank Conan dated March 31st, 2023 regarding this application? This report notes certain findings numbering 1 to 22 on page 2 and 3, and it also notes recommendations numbering 1 through 19.
Yes, I did receive the staff.
And do you understand these recommendations and conditions, and do you have any questions or comments at this time?
No, certainly I'd just like to take a moment to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Certainly want to take time to thank your city staff, especially Frank. He's been really good to work with. He was very communicative. Certainly up to speed on his recommendations. I think he did a very thorough job and certainly agree with his recommendations.
Okay, speak more into the microphone.
Sorry. I wanted to thank your city staff, especially Frank. I think he did a very thorough job. He's really good to work with, and certainly I agree with his recommendations on recommending approval of an interim use permit. We're excited for the opportunity to upgrade one of our billboard structures. Obviously, we have many in your city. We've been here over 20 years. We still have 15 structures. We're just looking at upgrading one. It is where our industry is going. It is our goal to upgrade to this better technology. We do see it as an upgrade. It looks more modern. It does give more flexibility to our advertisers. It also allows us to focus on our commitment to community service by providing community messaging to the cities we're in that you'll see in other cities, and it is a condition tonight, but we're happy to provide that kind of public service and community messaging. In addition to what we do in cities, we do a lot for emergency management and safety. One of the biggest things we do is Amber Alerts. We're one of the fastest ways to get that alert up. When someone's been unfortunately abducted, they're in a car, we can get those messages up right away. We also work with local sheriff's departments. We do stuff on emergency weather warnings and stuff with the FBI and a number of nonprofits. So we really are excited about the opportunity. I just put one in last week in Dayton, which was our 75th. So we currently have 75 of these in the Twin City area. The first one went up in 2006. We've proven we can operate them safely. That's our biggest priority. And we're excited about the opportunity to do this in Columbus through the interim use permit process. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Do any of the Planning Commission members have any questions at this time?
This is Barb. I just had a question for Frank. We had a question about the ladders on several of the billboards. Were you able to get any information regarding that?
I know I spoke with Mr. Weiland regarding some potential solutions. I know I presented a few of them that Mr. Weiland expressed to me at the, I talked to him before the last meeting, and there were a few different scenarios, I believe. Moving the plate up or down on the sign was one option. I know we discussed potentially if I can't remember with the ladder which side it could potentially be on. I know I discussed that, but Mr. Weiland, if you have a little bit more maybe that you can elaborate on. I know we kind of discussed
Sure.
a little bit.
Certainly, I appreciate the question. I mean, and I think the concern is where the ladders are in front of the city logos.
Yes.
You know, and I can certainly understand that. You know, going back in the history of these signs, I mean, the signs were designed and built, you know, the way they are. Most of them are center mount, and the ladders are in a place for a very specific, you know, safety reason, the way they have to get up the ladder and then transition up to the sign. So the signs were designed that way. That's why the ladders are there. Some of the things we've discussed, we've done in other communities, we've painted the ladders to match the background, so they kind of blend in with the background, is an option. You know, we can talk about moving that plate if we wanted to move them. In some cities, we've put more on the base, we put the city logo kind of on the base at the bottom instead of at the top is something where we can look at. We could potentially look at hanging it in front of the ladder off the catwalk. I think one sign when you first come into Columbus is kind of like that. They kind of have the logos hanging down from the front of the sign, so it's out of the way. So yeah, those are things we can look at. Potentially with this specific sign, the one we're looking to upgrade to a dynamic sign, I could look at potentially moving the ladder. We already have to make structural upgrades in order to add you know, there's a little different weight with the new faces. So we're already having to make some structural and engineering analysis. So that's certainly something I can look at for this specific sign we're looking at, because we're already going to have to do work to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Certainly.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Anyone who has an interest in this application discussion and wants to present testimony as evidence on this issue, please acknowledge themselves by stating their full name and address and step to the table. Nobody?
To tell them you're opening.
Oh, this is opening of the public hearing, so if you have anything to say on this issue, now's the time. Can anybody on Zoom question in? So if there's anybody on the Zoom that would like a question? Okay. So we will. Yeah. So we will now close the public hearing and open up the floor for the Planning Commission to discuss or make a motion.
Have any questions?
I don't.
Okay. There a motion?
This is Barb. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the Clear Channel LLC Dynamic Billboard Interim Use Permit at 9500145 Avenue Northeast, based on findings of facts 1 through 22, conditions 1 through 19 of the planner's report dated March 31st, 2023.
Is there a second?
This is Bethany. I'll second.
Okay, call for the motion.
Judy, aye. Barb, aye.
Bethany, aye.
Lynn, aye. So that recommendation will be put before the council at their meeting on Wednesday, April 12th at 6 PM.
Thank you, Chair. You did a great job with your first public hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Of course, there's 4 public hearings on the first night. So we're going to combine the next 2, which is,
Gotta say, now we close that one, we're gonna
Okay.
open up the.
yeah, I did close that one.
No,
Oh. Okay, the next item on the agenda, so it is the public hearing for a preliminary plat for Kettle Cove Estates, pages 33 through 66 in enclosure B. And we're going to combine it with number 7, the conditional use permit for planned unit development Kettle Cove Estates, pages 33 through 66 in enclosure B. I already asked. Yeah, so Dean is going to give, or are you going to give the report?
I'll read the public hearing notice, and then Dean will give the report,
Oh, okay.
and I'll read them just back to back. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the City of Columbus Planning Commission on Wednesday, August 5th, 2023 at 6 PM or as soon thereafter as parties may be heard. The hearing will be conducted in person and by interactive technology at the Columbus City Hall, located at 16319 Kettle River Boulevard, Columbus, Minnesota, to consider a request for a preliminary plat, Kettle Cove Estates, creating a 7-lot subdivision in the rural residential zoning district. Members of the public interested in attending in person, monitoring the meetings, or want more information should contact city offices at 651-464-3120 or visit the city website at columbusmn.us. The hearing shall continue until all evidence and testimony has been received. Applicant Greg and Jill Newville, property owners Christine M. Lynn Trustee and Bruce J. Lynn Trustee, property locations 15741 Kettle River Boulevard, Northeast, PID 153222430001. And for the conditional use permit for a planned unit development, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the City of Columbus Planning Commission on Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 at 6 PM or as soon thereafter as parties may be heard. The hearing will be conducted in person and by interactive technology at the Columbus City Hall, located at 16319 Kettle River Boulevard, Columbus, Minnesota, to consider a request for a conditional use permit allowing a planned unit development for Kettle Cove Estates, creating a 7-lot subdivision in the rural residential zoning district. Members of the public interested in attending in person, monitoring the meetings, or want more information should contact the city offices at 651-464-3120 or visit the city website at columbusmn.us. The hearing shall continue until all evidence and testimony has been received. Applicant Greg and Jill Newville, property owners Christine M. Lind, trustee, and Bruce J. Lind, trustee. Property location 15741 Kettle River Boulevard, Northeast, Columbus, Minnesota, PID 153222430001.
Thank you, Frank. So at this time, I'm going to ask the applicants, Greg and Jill Newville and Christine and Bruce Lynn, to please come forward and have a seat at the front table. And all parties give their name and current address for the record.
Good evening, Council. Greg Newville, 6843 141st Avenue, Columbus, Minnesota. And this is,
Hello, my name is Kelly Jordan. I'm a land surveyor working on this project. I am employed by Woodseth out of Wyoming.
I am Steve Hirsch. Address is 231 South Shore Drive in Forest Lake. and I'm working with the Lynns and the Newvilles on the real estate side of the plan.
The commission reviewed your application, and as normal protocol for the record, could you brief us a little bit about your application and plans?
Yes, we are proposing a preliminary plat of Kettle Cove Estates. We are working with Chris.
Speak more into the microphone, please.
We're working with Chris and Bruce Lind. They currently own the property. We have a signed purchase agreement with them and are developing it together. We're doing it in 7 residential lots. And the current owner will retain 2 of the lots, lots 4 and 5. And we're here just to to start
Okay.
the subdivision process and see where we stand on it.
And for the record, did you receive a copy of the staff report developed by Associate Planner, or I think Dean, didn't you do this?
Yes.
The RSC Dean Johnson dated March 28th, 2023 regarding this application. This report notes certain findings numbering 1 through 16 on page 63 and 64, and conditions numbering 1 through 11.
Yes, we did.
And do you understand these recommendations and conditions, and do you have any questions or comments about them?
Yes, we do understand them, and I am not sure. We'll probably receive your questions on them and comment as we go with that.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the floor to the commissioners to see if they have any questions or comments for the applicants.
I don't have anything.
Which lots did you say would be retained?
Lots 4 and 5.
4 and 5, okay.
And at this time, they don't have any intention of selling Lot 5, just keeping it all together for their own residential use right now.
Okay, now I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone who has an interest in this application or discussion and wants to present testimony as evidence on this issue, please come forward and acknowledge yourself with your name and address.
Questions from the audience?
Why don't you ask these guys to sit down
Okay, if you guys want to step back, and then we can have room for,
for the public hearing,
yeah.
someone to come forth.
Is there anyone here to give a discussion? Okay, there is, all right.
Their name, address.
Yep. And then don't forget your name and address.
Hi, I'm Kaisa Thiljan. I'm at 15935 Kettle River Boulevard. So I'm on the north side of the proposed development. I had emailed a couple of questions, and I'm not sure. I think some of them actually just got answered. So if you don't mind, I just type something up because I don't like public speaking.
Okay, talk into the microphone.
Okay. So my name's Kaisa, and I grew up here, and my family's owned the property for 37 years, and I'm on the north side of the proposed development. And we live here because we like the rural environment. And I request that if you guys move forward with this development, that some considerations take place. It's my understanding that Anoka County did recommend one entrance to the entire development as a cul-de-sac, and I would like to see as minimal effects on the roads, because that Kettle River and Camp 3 is such a busy area. Adding more driveways, more people stopping to turn into their driveways is going to increase the risk of more accidents. And I guess, yeah, it's,
Do you want a copy of your email?
no, I wasn't gonna actually ask the emails because I didn't know the email was gonna be just brought out until just a few seconds ago.
Okay.
But I had more or less pointing out that we live there for a reason, and I understand that it's important for Columbus to keep the rural characteristics of Columbus, and I feel like adding 7 lots in this small area is pretty significant. I understand one of them is already there. And it's, yeah. I ask that you guys consider maybe reducing, if possible, the amount or of lots, if that's even a consideration. I understand that it's important for people to make their land count and get their money's worth. I completely understand that too. But I hope that there's possible options to minimize properties right next to ours. We have long-term residents that surround that area, and we've all been committed to this community for many, many, many years. And this will definitely disrupt what we enjoy every single day. I do also ask that you consider including a buffer for the property lines. Multiple neighbors did offer to purchase some of the land to try and preserve it being rural and not developed. And unfortunately, that was not taken, and that's right. However, I think that just sends a message of how important it is for us to keep that land undeveloped to that extent. I understand development is going to happen. I totally do. So I ask that we maybe try and come up with a win-win instead of just such a dense population in this small area. I have nothing more. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
No, we got your letter just before the meeting, so I
Okay.
was going to acknowledge it, but I'm glad you were here to present it.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that wanted to address the commission on this issue? Please have a seat and state your name and address.
Separately or together? Are you together or you're separate?
We could do it together.
Okay.
My name is Glenn Miles, and my wife is Ruth Miles. We live at 7828 Camp 3 Road, and we are on the south side of the Kettle Cove Estate plot. And we did get a preliminary plot of Kettle Cove, and we're a little bit don't understand it all, you might say. I know that there was supposed to be no driveways onto Kettle River. This is according to Anoka County. I was under the impression that there would be a road or something going out to Camp 3 Road, but I do not see it on the preliminary plot. Maybe we can be advised of that as to where that would go, or how these 4 lots would have driveways going to, I don't know where.
Yeah, what's the plan?
Madam Chair, maybe
Okay.
you can have I think the surveyor,
Okay.
Kelly Jordan, maybe can answer that question. Maybe if he'll come up to the
Yeah,
mic
come up and-
maybe answer some of those questions for them.
Sorry, I was.
Hopefully this will kind of help. I know with all the lines on a preliminary plat.
I'm sorry, can you speak into a microphone, please?
You know, Kelly, can you speak into the other microphone and then use the screen on the bigger screen so that everyone can see what you're looking at? And there's the microphone right there.
Yeah.
Yep, mhm.
Sure. Can you guys, is that better? I don't know if I can, I'll give her a shot, but what I was handling, yeah.
Screen towards him.
Well, I'll just leave this for you guys. I tried to color code where the
Yeah.
proposed driveways are in green, just to help you be able to visualize on there.
Okay.
Looks like they're extending 159.
Sure, so I know it's hard on a prelim with all the lines, the contours, the setbacks. It's hard to pick out certain things. Maybe in the future, we can do some color stuff to help, but, like up here between lots 1 and 2 on block 1 and north, couple lots. Right in here is where the shared driveway, it's a shared access, 2 separate driveways is how the county typically does it. It's centered on the property line, but there would be, I think, a 4-foot green space between them. And that's been kind of a standard that we've done on multiple plats in the city of Columbus that front on county roads like Kettle River or Broadway. On lot 1, block 2, across the street here, the proposed driveway is going north on 159th. We definitely don't plan to have access on Kettle River for that lot.
Wait, I got a question.
Yep.
Where when you're back there, the shared lot, are they going out to Lake on Kettle River? That
Right here?
driveway? Yeah. Do they
Yep.
go- Oh, so they're allowing another driveway to go in on, really?
Yep, the county allows that, and they're also allowing a shared driveway down here, which is on the proposed lot 3, for lots 3 and lot 6, because we are proposing to close the existing driveway for the existing house there on lot 4.
Right.
And then, right, so if it wasn't for that, they would not allow those 2 driveways to the north.
Okay, because, back here. From what I was advised with the Anoka County engineers, that there wasn't supposed to be any driveways going onto Kettle River Boulevard. So this is news to me, that you must have gotten permission to put driveways onto Kettle River. I did note that the existing driveway would be removed, and obviously a new driveway would come into Camp 3 Road for the existing house and buildings. I'm surprised that something hasn't been done to make the other 4 lots, driveways come out to Camp 3 Road also, per recommendations from Anoka.
Okay. Well, thank you for your, comments. If you have questions, they're the ones, hopefully he answered some of them for you.
So this is a proposal, you vote on it to pass if it goes the way you have it set up here? Anoka County agrees to have those driveways come out.
Well, we're not the final,
No, you're the planning commission.
yeah, so we can take it under advisement, what you said.
Okay. Has this been coordinated with the Anoka County Engineering?
Dean?
Madam Chair, to save the integrity of a public hearing, we don't get into exchanges, questions and answers. I think perhaps we have the essence of what the neighbors are questioning. If not, you should simply state them, and either the applicant or I will be happy to answer all of these. But to preserve the integrity of a public hearing, we just take comments. We don't get into exchanges.
So after the meeting, we can,
Okay.
you can ask questions.
And then I'll change mine to a comment that the 4 lots should converge their driveways onto Camp 3 Road. And take that as advisement then, under advisement.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else you?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that, okay, please come forward.
Good evening, I'm Jay Olson, 8023 Lake Drive. The only thing I was concerned with is that 3 of them are under 5 acres. And I know they have the 200 feet. The only thing I was liking about Columbus years ago is that it's rural and they had a 5-acre minimum. I don't know if there's any way for them to still make enough money to consolidate a couple of the lots, like 1 part of 2 and 3 part of 2, so that they're 5-acre minimums. That's the only thing that I had. I understand taxes and everything else, and you know, things are changing, but that was the only thing that I had to bring up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this issue? If not, we will now close the public hearing with the understanding that this hearing will be continued at our next Planning Commission meeting, which is also a joint meeting with the City Council on April 19th at 6 p.m. here.
You forgot to ask people on Zoom if they want.
Oh, I did. Anybody on Zoom that wants to weigh in on this? I think there's one person and, okay. So now we'll close the public hearing. So this will be discussed at our joint meeting in 2 weeks with the City Council at 6 p.m. here, April 19th. And I'd advise the applicant you know, to come if you can, if there's any questions, and we will certainly take the comments that we heard into discussion.
Madam Chair, excuse me, if I could, I would love an opportunity to explain my memorandum. So if you have any questions between now and your next meeting, hopefully they'll be answered. It would also be an opportunity to address questions that the applicants made. If they understand the status of the plat, they may not choose to have to come back in 2 weeks. So do you have any direct questions of me? Otherwise, I'd like to just walk through and explain my memo, and in the course of that, hopefully address the majority of these questions.
Anybody have a question? Please do.
So we have 2 separate actions here, which was the reason for 2 public hearings. One regards the preliminary plat itself, and as the name implies, there is in the future a final plat, and so this action sets the stage for another plat drawing, which actually then gets recorded with the county. That does not come back to the Planning Commission. It goes directly to the City Council. This could happen in a month. It could happen in 6 months. That's up to the applicants to determine that time frame. But in the course of the platting itself, we require many different things to be determined before we make any kind of recommendations. That includes whether or not if the property has wetlands on it, and this particular property does. In the very southeast corner of half of Lot 6 is a large wetland area. There's a much smaller one that's on the common lot line of lots 1 and 2, kind of in the north central or easterly portion of the property. We don't process these plats without a delineation of the wetlands, and that's been completed by the watershed district. A question came up about the lot sizes, and that's the second public hearing that we have on the docket tonight, and that regards a conditional use permit which allows what we call a planned unit development procedure. This property, by its original description, is a quarter section. It's a full 40 acres. They actually own to the center of the street. However, the county takes a 33 feet easement on either side of the center of that. And I think as my notes indicate, they've got some 37 acres of land that is not currently encumbered by the county road itself. As a privilege of submitting a plat, the county is requesting an additional 27 feet on each side of the road. So it almost doubles the existing right-of-way. So they started with 40 historically. They've got 37, and by the time they're done platting, it's just under 35 net acres, if my numbers work. And the one gentleman asked the question that the city has prided itself in requiring 5-acre lots. In conventional platting, for those properties that subdivide and donate land through this plat process called right-of-way, we go down as small as 4.5 acres in area, just as a matter of right. In this instance, 37 acres divided by 5 acres yields 5 lots plus. We don't round off the lots, so they get 5 lots. The way that the drawing indicates, the northernmost lot is a little less than the rest of these. You can see those acreages that are drawn on the property. And so this planned unit development conditional use permit, the second public hearing, is a provision in our ordinance that says you can average your lots as small as 2.5 acres as long as another lot is 7.5. They've got to average the 5 acres. And we simply call that a lot averaging procedure. That's in the zoning ordinance and certainly allowed through the subdivision provisions, but in concert with this planned unit development conditional use permit. So again, when they started out, you might say, well, they had 40 acres legally, why can't they have 8 lots? That argument disappears because in the past 30, 40 years, the county, through state statutes, is allowed to accept a minimum amount of right-of-way for their roads, and so they've got 37. That's the basis for determining at 5 acres per lot, they're entitled to 7 lots. When they go down as small as 2.5, that's legal in this procedure. We don't have any under 4, I don't think, maybe 3.9. I don't see the numbers pop out, but they're generally the smallest one's right around 4 acres. Right. So there is a departure from our 5-acre standard, and that's what this process is allowing. A question came up regarding coordination with Anoka County. We found this application incomplete for a couple of months because we had no information from Anoka County. In your packet, it's identified as page 52 in your info. It's just pages 1 and 2 in my copy, but on page 52 is the letter from the county itself, which has jurisdiction for all access provisions, and that's dated February 13th. It indicates that, as proposed, the plat will introduce 2 new access points onto County Road 62, which would be allowed provided the city has no concerns about shared access. We have no jurisdiction. It is the county's road. They are permitting the 2 shared accesses. As a condition of this, they've requested that the existing access to the existing residents be removed and relocated to Camp 3. And they are also allowing the access off of Camp 3 to the middle lot, number 5, which the developer has indicated that the current landowners wish to retain, but we have to regard that even though they may own 2 lots, at some point they may sell this, and so we're concerned about access, and this access provision will work. Ultimately, the county's plans are to reconfigure the access of Kettle River Boulevard and Lake Drive to the south. We're told that's another roundabout. If you're a fan of those, You can clap if you don't like them. You can moan. That is the plan, and when that's done, Camp 3 will be terminated at Lake Drive with a cul-de-sac. So when Mr. Miles spoke earlier, he lives on the south side of that. That is not going to be a through street or a connection ultimately to Lake Drive. That will end in a cul-de-sac. So I think the primary concerns about access are, first of all, resolved by the permit authority, that's Anoka County. And secondly, I heard someone before the meeting say, well, gee, have you ever been on Camp Road in the morning? The cars are all backed up. They're not going to be there anymore. And so long-term, this was the solution that Anoka County has recommended to us. And for Mr. Miles' sake, you can get a copy of that letter from Anoka County. They have the authority, and we're going to pass on our recommendations for that purpose. So the first part of my memo addresses just the plat. It talks about the findings of fact, and these are essentially actual facts. They are just statements of the truth regarding this development. And in the recommendations, then, it takes into consideration all the players that are in here. Our recommendations are going to be based upon some detailed recommendations from our own city engineer. He's made some comments about building pad locations, the width of private driveways. So there will be some changes from this initial plat to a final plat based upon his recommendations, which are consistent with mine. We also will require parkland dedication in lieu of cash in lieu of parkland dedication. Where the wetlands are, we require permanent buffers to be placed at the edge, permanent plaques placed at the edge of the buffers around the wetlands themselves. And so that is the basis of one part of your public hearing tonight. That'll be action that you take next meeting. And the second one, again, this plan unit development is simply identifying the fact that this is a lot averaging request. They're entitled to 7 lots. Some of them don't meet our minimum 5 or even our minimum 4.5 acre, but they're allowed to do it through this provision. Now, I'm not certain, because you listened as well as I did, if I answered all of the questions, but I believe the information that you're going to have to make a decision comes from the agencies that play a role in this, not only your own, where you will make a recommendation to the City Council in 2 weeks, but they take into consideration the watershed district as well as Anoka County. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dean. We're not going to, okay.
I see a question.
Sorry, go ahead, Judy.
So you're removing a driveway from Kettle River?
Yes.
And then adding 2 new ones, so you're really only adding 1 additional driveway?
That is correct.
And then the current driveway is going to come off of Camp 3?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, we're not going to make a recommendation tonight or vote on it. Like I said, this will be brought up at the joint meeting on April 19th at 6 p.m. We can do discussion here.
You want to say anything else?
Oh, for discussion, it won't be a public hearing. You can come and you can listen to the discussion, but this was a public hearing. So. To the meeting, yeah. Yeah, so, because that way if the council or if we have questions, you're here to answer. Okay, on to, I did close it, yeah. So number 8 is a public hearing for ordinance 23-01, Chapter 7A Amendment, Small Animal Facilities, Enclosure C, pages EC 1 through EC 56. And Frank, are you?
I can read the public notice.
Pardon me?
I can read the public.
You can waive the reading. I don't know anybody here. You'll have to say that, though.
Okay.
I think at this time we'll waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
What was that?
For the ordinance, we'll waive the reading of the public notice.
The public notice for,
Yeah. Sorry, this is my first time too, Lynn, so I'm right there with you.
okay. So, does anybody have, I'll open the public hearing since there's nobody to talk on it.
You can ask. I don't know if there's anybody here for.
Does anybody here have any discussion on the small animal ordinance in the audience? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing.
We got to ask for anybody online.
Oh, anybody online, sorry. No, now I'll close the public hearing.
The meeting via Zoom.
I'm sorry, is there someone on Zoom that would like to speak?
I thought I heard somebody. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing.
So the city is the applicant. I would be happy to give a brief summary on behalf of the applicant and then take any questions that you may have. The information that you had in your packet is on page.
It was the neighbor Kaisa and of course the Miles.
Okay.
So pages E, C, 9 through 12 in your packet is what I'm going to be referring to. And I think all of you were here, including some of the council members that are here this evening, were present at a joint meeting where we had discussions of this. This particular ordinance is amending the existing zoning ordinance. It pertains primarily to animal facilities, but it also includes a couple of housekeeping amendments. And this has 7 sections in the ordinance, and they're spelled out as section Roman numeral 1 through Roman numeral 7. I'm just going to walk through them. On the first page of this ordinance, section 1 amends section 7A-201 of the existing zoning ordinance, which is our definitions section. And it adds several new and amends one existing definition in the ordinance. I'm not going to read any of these, but that is what all of section 1 is. Section 2 on the next page is actually a housekeeping amendment. Some of you are aware that last fall we adopted a new zoning district called the Commercial Industrial Light District, and that was not included in our introductory section of the zoning code, which identifies all of our zoning districts. So this was an opportunity to do some housekeeping and now add the Commercial Industrial Light District, and that's kind of a table of contents, if you will, in the ordinance. Section 3 includes pretty much the meat of the ordinance as it relates to animal facilities. And you can see strike through and underline provisions where we have added language in the ordinance, and it clarifies within several different zoning districts: the mixed-use medium, mixed-use high density, the community commercial, the general business, the light industrial district, the commercial industrial district, and the new commercial industrial light district. What animal facilities are included? And they are primarily animal hospital or clinic and grooming facilities. Without going into more detail, you can read those specifics. Section 4 regards the primary change in the previous permitting provisions of our ordinance as it related to commercial dog kennels. And essentially, it has been gutted, removed. There were 2 large provisions in section 7A-809 B and C, We've eliminated those in their entirety, and this new provision basically says that we are not allowing animal boarding, animal daycare, commercial dog kennels, and other animal established in any of the commercial districts. We still allow grooming in several of those, but otherwise, no kennels, daycares. The question has come up in the past about the one existing daycare facility that you have next to the racetrack. That remains a legal, non-conforming use, so it has no impact on them. They operate and will continue to operate with a valid conditional use permit. The next section, number 5, is another kind of housekeeping element. It went into the parking provisions of the ordinance, and we really didn't have anything pertaining to grooming facilities or animal clinics for that matter. And so we've made a reference in that section regarding parking facilities. Item number 6 is another housekeeping element, and that is we had to make some changes regarding our mixed-use districts and add the new commercial industrial light district as it relates to landscaping facilities. So that one had nothing to do with animal facilities. It was housekeeping. And then Section 7 is simply the adoption procedures. So these strike-through provisions that you see now are the result of the recommendations that came from, I think it was our March 1st work session. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
I don't. No.
Okay.
They're too easy.
I would like to entertain a motion that we send this to the city council. So,
Madam Chair, I just have one comment on the report.
oh, sorry. Sorry.
So, no worries there. So what you have before you is you have the study report, which is a moratorium study, and then you have the ordinance. So this will be a two-motion process. So the report was drafted by our associate planner. I have 2 recommendations for changes, and then you have the ordinance amendment, and those will be taken in 2 different motions because one is the study and report that was prepared because there was a moratorium in place, and the second one is for the ordinance amendment because that's the recommendation of the study. You know what I mean? So the ordinance amendments is the outcome of the study. So looking on page EC3, if you look at the second paragraph, there's only two amendments that I'm offering. And this is what happens when you read something, you put it down for 2 weeks, and then you pick it up again and look at it again. So in the second paragraph, my recommendation is that after the word felt, that you strike all the way up to the word voted, and you replace it with further discussion and study was warranted. And then it would say, and voted to recommend a moratorium for commercial small animal pet uses. And so there would be that would be a new sentence. And then my second recommendation is in the third paragraph, and that is, it would say during the process, and you would cross out creating the conditional use permit, and then just continue the sentence. So the sentence would read, during the process, it was discovered that the state of Minnesota did not regulate either commercial dog kennels or pet daycare.
I'm completely lost.
And I don't know if anybody else has any recommendations or whether you think those 2 recommendations are appropriate, and you can either accept them or you can say, no, I'd rather have different words. So this is your report and your recommendation to the council. So it really is at your discretion whether you choose to accept changes or, again, even amend my changes if you feel other language is better.
Thank you.
Can I ask, I was a little slow on your first deletion in paragraph 2. So you deleted felt the business was not fit for the area?
Yep, from the word the, I struck all the way to the word and so the next, and replaced it with further discussion and study was warranted and voted to recommend a moratorium for commercial small animal pet uses.
Okay.
And that would just be one continuous sentence.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So the new sentence would say, dog training was not listed as a use, and the Planning Commission felt further discussion and study was warranted and voted to recommend a moratorium for commercial small animal pet uses.
Anybody have any additions,
No.
discussion? Okay.
Okay.
I'll look
Madam
for a
Chair, you have one
motion.
comment.
Me, over here. Hello.
sorry.
I just have a question on something you said, Dean. The existing doggy daycare, I thought I heard you say it would remain legal non-conforming, but I thought our decision was that it would be, because it was approved with the CUP prior to when we're going to adopt this new ordinance, it would be legal conforming.
It is. That was the wrong choice of word.
Okay, good.
No,
That's what I
no,
wanted to make sure.
We create, in other ordinance provisions, legal non-conforming uses, which again, when Elizabeth gets questions from title companies, is allowed. A legal non-conforming is fine. It's an illegal non-conforming that you have trouble with. In this case, we put a provision, if it was built before, whatever, 2023, it remains legal, but none from this point forward.
Right, okay.
would
I just
be-
wanted to make sure I understood, because I knew that was what we intended.
That was a verbal faux pas, thank you.
Perfect, okay.
And just for clarification, it's in 7A683Q, and the language is in there. It says small animal indoor boarding, grooming, or daycare facility lawful permitted in the district prior to January 1st, 2023 is included.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'll look for a motion.
This is Barb. I'll make a motion to recommend accepting the 2023 Commercial Pet and Small Animal Uses Report and accept the recommendations of the staff.
With her changes.
Pardon me?
With her changes. With Elizabeth's
Yes,
changes.
with changes
Yeah.
of staff.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Call for the vote.
Bethany, aye.
Barb, aye.
Judy, aye.
Lynn, aye. And then I'll look for a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Okay, this is Barb. Motion to recommend.
Thank you.
Motion to recommend the adoption of ordinance 2023-01, amending Chapter 7A of the City Council Code of Ordinance regulating animal facilities and housekeeping amendments
With
staff recommendations.
This is Bethany, I'll second.
Okay, call for the vote.
Bethany, aye.
Barb, aye.
Judy, aye.
Lynn, aye. Yay. Okay, now it's number 9 is a public open forum. Anybody?
You gotta ask if anybody wants to say
Does anybody want to say anything? Anybody online?
We can sing.
Okay, then we'll go on to number 10, Planning Commissioners Report. Does anyone of the commissioners have anything to report?
This is Barb. I don't.
I do not.
Am I supposed to say that I don't? I don't.
Okay.
Bethany, I don't.
Can I say one thing, though? I just want to commend this city for the training that I feel like I've gotten just to sit here, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you very much for the formal, informal training and caring that I know how to do the job right. So thank you.
Okay, number 11, Associate Planners Report. Frank?
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, I sent out an email regarding large-sized maps that we can get from Anoka County GIS. I was just following through on that. You don't have to say anything right away, just if you want to respond via email, just so then that way I can get them all at once. When does, because Lori's going to be the one that is our point of contact, our deputy clerk, and she's out of town right now, so we do have a little bit of time. Do you know when she gets back?
Next week.
Next week? So yeah, just sometime before next Friday, and then that way we can get you all big paper maps. I sent a PDF copy via email, so you can kind of check it out. And I know I've already gotten some responses so far, so that was the first thing I wanted to bring up. Secondly, I just wanted to say, Lynn, I think you did a fantastic first night on the job. I'm going to get out of here in less than 90 minutes, so I'm very impressed. No offense, Ron, I know you tried. I know you tried, but that's all I have.
So if there's no other business, we'll move on to number 12, because I said I was going to be home and in bed by 8:30. Meeting adjourned.
You gotta take a vote.
Oh.
A motion.
Motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. Vote.
Bethany, aye.
Barb, aye.
Judy, aye.
Lynn, aye. Out of here.